So I'm going to talk about what is it all about when we hear about the risk. Um, so this is a conversation everybody has in the business. And before even I started, I will just first of all walk you through the hierarchy, how I'm going to walk you through the steps. So first, we're going to go with the how we can do this risk management. What's the purpose of it, and how do we identify in the real world class, and then how do we assess them? Um, how do we respond to them? That's the next step. So there are certain steps we have to go through um, before we understand the core of this management. And then how do we monitor them? And also with how do we build a strong risk management framework? Um, and then how do we build that strong risk culture? And then we're going to see the real world cases so that it will give you a clear idea. Why do we need that? Regardless of where you're working, you're going to see there is always a risk. That's the critical part of any business. Um, so so imagine so picture this: you're in a top leadership role at a major airline, right? Then out of nowhere, you get a call from your operations team. One of your planes is grounded due to the technical failure. So now, most of us have heard about these situations like this before, right? So what's the first thing that comes to our mind? Um, Anyone? Well, I'll tell you what. So there are a couple of things that comes first. So flight delays, a few frustrated passengers, and a bit of scrambling to get things sorted, right? But here's where it gets serious. What if there's no backup plan available? Now you are looking at hundreds of stranded passengers. And we're looking at not only stranded passengers, we're talking about refunds, rebooking, rescheduling, and a big financial hit. Just one canceled flight cost your airline hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that's before the what we talk about. Even we talk about the real damage. That's your company's reputation. So unhappy passengers don't just grumble. Now, those days are gone when you used to hear in the news. Now everything is online, right? So you see that they're going to post it online, they complain, and before you know it, your competitor are more than happy to welcome these customers with open arms. Um, so the good news is situations like these don't have to turn into disasters. With the right risk management strategy, you can spot these problems early, have solid backup plan in place, and keep your business running smoothly, no matter what comes your way, right? So today we are going to talk about why risk management is not just about avoiding problems. It's about staying ahead and making sure your business can handle whatever comes next. So so the first thing comes is what is it really all about? What is the risk management? So it is part of doing business. It is unavoidable, um, but instead of trying to eliminate it completely, the focus should be on identifying risks, assessing their impacts, and having a plan to mitigate them. And that's what keeps the business resilient. Um, think of it like you're driving. You're driving your car. You can't predict now what others drivers will do. Um, but what you can do is a couple of things. You're going to wear the seatbelt, and you're going to stay alert while you're driving. obviously you have to, and then you have to drive defensively because the traffic can be wild, but all you can do to take those precautionary steps to protect you from not getting into some crazy drivers. So in the same way, risk management is, I'm going to say, is not about stopping them completely from happening. That's impossible. It's You cannot have 100% risk-free a business and think about that nothing's going to happen down the road. So it's about making sure you're prepared for them so that they don't catch you off guard. So strong risk management ensures business continuity that I just talked about. And then when challenges arise, um, an organization with a solid plan in place can keep operations running smoothly, avoiding major disruptions that could otherwise set them back. And perhaps most importantly, managing risks wisely is key to every decision. Every business choice involves some level of uncertainty, like I was mentioning. But those that take a strategic approach to risk can make informed decisions with confidence. So the next thing is, why does management matters? So because businesses that take it seriously don't just avoid disaster, they create growth opportunities. Um, so first, it protects the organization assets. It protects your organization's reputation. Um, think about a company that suffers a data breach, and you have a strong cybersecurity and uh, response strategies in place. So they can quickly contain the damage, right? So because you have those strong features in place, the strategies you have already taken, is going to give you that protection layer. And if they don't, they risk losing customers. The organizations which don't have such strategies taken place, they haven't adapted to those security features, or they haven't taken precautionary steps, they're going to lose customers' trust. That's the big hit for any business. Um, I know I have personally know one of my friends was doing business in Japan. Um, in Japan, most of the clients, it's I don't know if it's in their it's a trend, or I'm going to say if it's their in their DNA, that what happened is, if let's say they give you an order to ship a cargo to their country, and if something happens to it, let's say if the order is not correct, next thing, they will never shop with you again. That's the period. So they will, and I think this happens pretty much in any business. In when you're talking about country to country, especially in China, all the domination of these shipments come from Amazon. All their orders come mostly from China, so they have a big chunk of market grabbed through advertisement to gaining people trust. And then not only that, so with that being said, so with the when you lose the customer's trust that I was talking about, also you're facing some legal issues with that, and then dealing with major financial losses, and the things can go on. Right. So those are the one of the major things that you have to be careful with uh, when you're dealing with these strategies of risk management. And then the second thing is, what does it do? What the risk management enables you? It enables your growth, like I was mentioning before. So company that anticipate can confidently seize new opportunities, new businesses, knowing they have a safety net in place, whether it's expanding in new markets or launching innovative products. Businesses with strong risk strategies are better positioned to succeed. And finally, it helps organizations stay on track towards their goals. So without this, even the best laid plans can be derailed by unexpected events. But with a right proactive approach, businesses can navigate challenges while staying focused on long-term success. So when you anticipate risks, plan ahead, and take action, you're not just avoiding these problems. You're getting yourself for a stronger, more resilient future. And so similarly, that I've just extended a bit more explanation of what does it really do, as it's self-explanatory. It's safeguarding your assets, and you have an edge in the a competitive advantage in the market with the strong risk management strategy, and then you have an improved decision making. It helps you be more confident when you're making any company's decision. And it's a combined effort, let's put it this way, because not only the leadership has to work, it's all combined effort, but it has to start from top to bottom, right? You have to create that culture in the company. So there are four key components, the four pillars of risk management. So like I was saying, it's the first thing you're going to do is the identification. In And then the second part is the risk assessment. The third is the response, and the monitoring is the fourth. So when it comes to risk identification, I don't know if anybody have heard about uh, Lehman Brothers. Um, I'm going to talk about this case. That it's a very interesting case. Lehman Brothers was an American global financial services. Um, it was a long time financial leader. It was established, I think it was about 1850 to be exact. And uh, Lehman Brothers was the fourth largest investment bank in the United States, behind Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, Merrill Lynch, with about 25,000 employees worldwide. So it was doing business in investment banking, equity, fixed income, and derivative sales. I'm talking about the private equity and private banking. Um, so what really happened to Lehman Brothers? So a couple of things. So the first thing is they made their risky investment. They heavily invested in subprime mortgages, so basically giving loans to people with poor credit. So what happened after that when they did that? There was a housing market crash. So when homeowners couldn't pay their loans, these investments overnight became worthless. So as a result, Lehman Brothers had to file for bankruptcy. So it was estimated with about $600 billion in debt. They couldn't survive, and they had to file this bankruptcy back in September 2008. And that was the largest in U.S. history at the time. Um, and then what happened after that was the major financial crisis. It was a global effect. So their collapse shook the whole global economy, causing stock markets to crash and pushing other banks into trouble. Basically, they took big risks, lost money, and they collapsed, making the 2008 financial crisis even worse. That's one case. Um, uh, and the other one I want to talk about is the Equifax breach. Um, Now, Equifax is the credit bureau reporting agency. This Equifax had a data breach. That was one of the biggest cybersecurity failures. Um, it exposed, it was estimated about 147 million people's personal data in 2017. So what really happened? The first thing was there was a security flaw that was ignored. Equifax failed to patch a known vulnerability in their system. So as a result, the next thing what happened? The hackers broke in. Cyber criminals exploited these flaws and accessed sensitive data between May and July 2017. Um, and then there was a massive data leak. Stolen data that included names, social security number in the US, and then the birth date, addresses, even credit card numbers. And I still remember at the time I was working here in Canada with one of the organizations. We had, after this incident, um, right away, we had another credit bureau agency that came. Their corporate people came to our office to pitch in because we had a huge contract with Equifax that we were dealing with clients checking the reports, and this was generating a lot of revenue for Equifax. Even though we were in Canada, I remember I was getting those notifications that free credit monitoring for a certain number of months for the next, I believe it was for 1 year. They were giving it away for free. But what's the point? Once that happened, I'm not gonna never gonna go back. I'm not going to sign up for that. They're giving. Once it's that you have lost that trust, you're not gonna go back again. So that's exactly what happened. So our actually organization turned away from Equifax and signed up with another company because a lot of commercial clients we used to have, we used to check we had to go into the credit reporting information. So we started using another uh, agency's report after that. So that huge business, they lost it, Equifax, and that's just in our company that I know personally. But imagine how many other businesses would had given a hit to Equifax. So so the late and the other thing was even that was worse in Equifax case was they only revealed the breach in September 2017, which was months after it actually happened. So, so that was even worse. So this was a huge fallout. The company paid $700 million in fines and settlement, and on top of that, the CEO and security officers had to resign. So millions were at risk of identity theft. So so you can see in these two cases, right? So neglecting the security update, that single update, it actually cost billions of Equifax and ruined their reputation for good. And the next is I'm going to talk about the risk assessment. So how do we assess? How do we evaluate and prioritize these risks? Um, which is the one of the key parts in evaluation of risk management. So like I said, not all risks are created equal. So example of a restaurant owner, their top concern might be the fire hazards in the kitchen. On the other hand, if the person working in the financial industry, the organization will be more focused on the cybersecurity, data breach, and fraud issues, right? So the priority is different in both cases. The key is the prioritization. Risks should be assessed based on the two factors, basically. So the first is the likelihood. how often uh, this risk likely going to happen. And then the second thing, it's impact on the business. So if it does happen, how severe is going to be the damage, right? So there's the calculation you have to do, analysis you have to do is what will be the consequences. So another example I want to use is a power outage at a local store will be inconvenient. But if the same thing happened in a critical industry or let's say in a hospital, that could be life-threatening. So you can see the difference is the criticality. So the best organizations understand which risk they must tackle first, which is why a lot of times, the risk matrix that we have in place, it is like a tool that it actually helps you um, categorize which risk is critical, which needs to be addressed first, and then which is medium and which is low. So accordingly you prioritize those risks. So there are industry differences. So finance versus retail risks, like I mentioned, they differ, definitely differ. And then the sorry. So the next is the risk response strategies. So in the risk response strategies, there are four categories further that it handle. How do we handle the risk response? So there are a couple of ways. The four main keys are either you can avoid them, right, or you can transfer the risk, um, or mitigate them. That's the third, and the fourth is you just accept them. And I'm going to explain a little bit of for each part. So once you have gone through the identification part to assess the risk, now it's time to decide how you're going to handle. So the first is the avoiding. So if the risk is too high, sometimes the best option is just to walk away. So take an example. Some companies' risk tolerance level might be too low to handle high risk investments. So what do they do in that case? They're going to avoid unstable markets or high risk investments. Um, and then how do we do the next thing is we do the transferring the risk. So what do we mean by transferring? So um, we actually a lot of businesses buy a heavy amount of insurance policies. Uh, so you basically shift the responsibility. So airlines, for instance, take out a massive insurance policies to cover accidental liabilities, right? And then the third is we mitigate the risk. How do we do that? This is where you reduce risk through proactive measures. Think about, like I was mentioning about the cybersecurity. A company cannot eliminate hacking risks entirely, but it can install the multi-layered security feature in the system. And then the next thing they can do is they can conduct regular internal audits. Auditing internally, that basically helps you keep everything in check, and it also helps you with the compliance. So you have all the books ready by the time the officials come and check your books to make sure you're following the rules. And then the most important key I'm going to say, how do we mitigate them? Is we mitigate them by training our employees, because the employees are the manpower of the company. And believe it or not, most of the percentage that comes for the errors and mistakes that come from the lower part, from the manpower. So a lot of times employees have done something that they were not supposed to do. And I'm going to give you an example that happened actually while I was working with one company. So that can cause that can potentially put the company into jeopardy. So I was working with this organization where the uh, company had was dealing with the biomedical equipments. So we had to order in chunk, and our supplier was in Europe. So one time we got the invoicing, and then we sent the order. We needed the the supply, but then when the invoice came, right? So there was something fishy about that. We got an email first to asking us to transfer the money, and it's all good to go. We're going to release our shipment, and then you're going to receive it in a certain number of days. Um, Now, one thing was strange about was the signature on that piece of paper and the email. That's where it all started. So the employee actually, so making a long story short, that email was fake. So it was sent by um, somebody who had knew too well about this supplier. So they had mimicked everything top to bottom there and made a perfect email with the perfect email address. But the one little thing our technical secure SOC team had catched was that one little thing was in the email, and that we were about to lose with that one click that actually that the employee accepted that email. We could have lose about 1.2 million euros because biomedical equipment comes in big orders. So when we had a government contract, so we used to bring a lot of equipments from overseas. So and this person, whoever was doing it, knew too much about it. And the other thing was the person in charge on the other end was already on vacation. So there was some connecting dots. So thankfully, we came to know, and then thankfully we didn't lose that money. But this so that which is why I feel the training for employees is a critical part of the breach, right? And the other is the acceptance. When we say risk acceptance, is some risks are simply part of doing business. Um, so take an example, a delivery company uh, who already know that fuel prices will fluctuate. They will not actually avoid them or mitigate them. They will just accept it. They will what they will do, instead of eliminating that risk, they will adjust their budgeting and pricing, and then work it accordingly to continue their delivery supply, especially if you have a over 300 or big uh, big cargo trucks on the road, and fuel is the critical part, right? So every business makes these decisions on a daily basis, whether they realize it or not. The key is making informed choices rather than reacting when it's too late. And then the 10th is risk monitoring. How do we monitor them? How do we stay ahead of risks? So, in simple terms, I'm going to say is we can constantly monitor them on a daily basis, um, and don't worry about these guys. This is the compliance I talked about, and I'm going to just briefly explain about this. The RMF is a risk management framework compliance tool. So this also it's these are what are the compliance tools to help to address risk related to data protection, information security, and compliance. And then COVID-19 case study. I'll briefly talk about that too. So here's the thing that risk, like I was mentioning, it never stays the same. So think about the COVID-19. So within weeks during that time, a lot of um, companies were making decisions. How are we going to handle um, the business after the COVID-19 hit? So they moved quickly, swiftly by instead of working from offices, they started um, sending people to work from home, work remotely. There were a lot of supply chains that were disrupted, and the entire industry had to rethink about the operations. The companies that were proactive, adaptable, and forward thinking made it through, but those companies, and I know there were some businesses that were not proactive. They basically had to shut down their business. Um, I know a lot of food chains who had the and dine in, they were all closed at the time, and that was one of the major revenue they were generating by having people coming in, dining in, especially high class those restaurants who were making a lot of money with that. A lot of business corporates were using those dine-ins, and but um, but the problem was how we're going to shift from that issue that COVID-19 had shut down the doors for everybody not to go anywhere in the on the premises. Uh, so they shifted. Some businesses shifted. The food business actually they chose the delivery home delivery option. So so some actually, for some it worked, for some it didn't really make much. They had to shut down anyway. And that's why risk monitoring in this case is not just one thing. It is a continuous process. You have to adapt to changes um, according to the situation. So it's evolving process. So organization must regularly assess their risks landscape and adjust their strategies and ensure decision makers are well informed. um, the best companies don't just react to change, they will stay ahead of it. And and the second part is the regulations like GDPR, PCI DSS, ISO 27001. They require ongoing monitoring because cyber threats constantly shift, and it's going to keep on going because Internet of Things. Now, a lot of devices are connected with our voice activation. You can A lot of data in um, is being used by voice, and part of it you probably have heard about a lawsuit with Apple actually settled the lawsuit. I believe it was a $95 million of eavesdropping. The Siri was doing the eavesdropping, and there was some data leakage. So those issues, companies have been paying those lawsuits and been addressing those, how we can actually make improvements, because the more advanced technologies is going to the next step, it's creating more, I'm going to say, more challenges for the cybersecurity. And and what is the ISO 27001, right? So imagine you own a bank. Inside the bank, there is a vault. You store customers' money, important documents, right? And then valuable assets. But you wouldn't just leave the vault unlocked, right? Or let anyone access it without security measures. So to protect that vault, you need a couple of things. You need the first thing, in simple way, I should say, um, installed security cameras and hire a security guard. Just the common basic things. We just a person when walks into the bank, uh, the first thing is concerned the security, this how secure this bank is. Um, so installing security camera, hire security guards, set up alarm system, and have backup plan. So how does that interpret in in the ISO 27001. So when we talk about security cameras installation, that means we're interpreting in a form of a monitoring threat. So you have an extra eye watching 24/7, and protecting, giving you a peace of mind and protection, right? And then when we say hiring security guard, that's your access control. So you're making your access, who can access. On the access, you have that control, who's watching, who's coming in, who's going out, and then setting up the alarm system. So that means interpreting in a form of a detecting breaches. So if anything goes south, the alarm is gonna sound, right? And then you should have a backup plan. So any bank or organization should have that backup plan, to survive type of chaos situation that hopefully, everybody hopes they don't have that issue. Um, so that's what we interpret as a backup plan is a disaster recovery. So you probably would have heard about this disaster recovery plan. So take an example of I'm going to say, uh, a city where mostly gets hit by hurricanes and by, I'm going to say, some big tornadoes. Chances are you're not going to see uh, uh, a lot of businesses working in that area. They will be more focusing on where it's more business ideal for them, to have a backup plan to, if a one operation stops, the other has a backup and it keeps on running. So that's your business continuity plan. And then recovery, how fast you can go back up into the normal operation. So that's part of that. So it's go hand in hand with the disaster recovery and the business continuity. Um, so it is like a rule book that helps a company set up these security controls. But for the difference is for digital data instead of physical memory. And same thing, it has those components that I just talked about, the risk assessment. It helps us identify the sensitive data you have and what can go wrong. So it addresses that too. So another example I'm going to say is a hospital stores patient's record. A hacker might try to steal it because it might have some sensitive information. So we have the mitigation controls. So we implement those controls to reduce the risk. What we do is we encrypt the data, patient's record. So if in case, God forbid, it gets stolen, it will be unreadable, right? So, and then your access control that I was addressing, limit who can see or change sensitive data. So, for example, a doctor can see patient's record, right? Can access medical record, but not the receptionist. And then the same thing with the continuous monitoring. It keep checking for new threats. Just like banks regularly test their alarm system, companies must audit their security. And then the incident response plan, prepare for security breaches. If a hacker attacks, have a plan to uh, contain the damage and restore the operation. So you probably will be thinking, but why 27,001? Why? Why does it matter, right? Well, to prevent financial losses from breaches. And you have seen the examples that I've just went through, the Equifax, how much business it lost and how much in penalties they paid. But the most important part, they lost the customer's trust. So ISO 27001, it helps in a way to build your customer trust. So, and you wonder how they're going to build the trust. So let's say if a company or a client goes and looking for some business, so the moment they will see this information about the company who's ISO 27001 certified, it all of a sudden the game changes. You kind of feel like confident. This company is doing something well, right? It is more confident and more strong in terms of following policies, and they feel confident if to potentially give their business to this company, because you want to feel safe in the hands of company while you're giving out your information to them, right? So it's, which is a critical part. And then the PCI DSS. So it is a card, um, the payment card industry security standard. So it works it helps with the payment processing. How it helps, it's kind of it's specific to organization who are handling the transactions with credit cards. And you probably see with the banks who are using them. And then it mandates encryption, secure payment processing, and then does the fraud prevention. Take an example of Amazon. So Amazon wouldn't be doing business without this PCI DSS security feature, um, uh, because otherwise a lot of hackers will be getting into the details and stealing out all the data, and that's very critical for any business. Um, so you will lose that. And then the GDPR privacy laws. So anybody know about the privacy, the GDPR? Have anybody heard about that?
Yeah, definitely, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
Sure.
yeah.
Okay. Um, so so GDPR. So it's so ever wondered why every time when you go to the website, it asks for cookie consent, right? So why does it do that? So you have to thank GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation. So it's a law that protects your personal data in European Union. So companies must ask permission before using your information. So you have the right to delete your data. So if companies fail to do that, they, like I said, and you have seen it, they can get huge fines. And the most recent one, you probably have heard about Facebook, who was fined about 1.3 billion US dollars, and European, I would say 1.2 billion. So if a company misuses your email, you can file a complaint under GDPR. So, so why should we care about this? So following these rules is not just about avoiding fines. Like I mentioned, and you probably know by now, it's about trust. That's the key. So if you lose the trust, then you cannot rebuild that trust again. So compliance, when I talk about the ISO 27001 or the PCI DSS or GDPR, the compliance builds trust. It reduces your risk, and it helps prevent financial disasters. And the building the so the next is building a risk management framework. So now this might sound technical, but at its core, it's pretty straightforward. Um, so it's about the right structure in place so we can effectively manage risks instead of reacting to them after the fact. So the three key ingredients that I have mentioned here to establish clear policies, processes, and tools. So these are the three ingredients. So think of these like a building blocks. So each one supports the next. So first, policies. This is where it all starts. So policies set the rule of the game. They define how we handle risks and what is acceptable and what is not, um, and how decisions should be made. So without clear policies, things can get messy pretty fast. And here's the key. Um, policies should not just sit on a shelf, right? So they need to be practical, easy to follow, and actually used in day-to-day operations. Um, and for processes, policies tell us what to do, right? But processes tell us how to do it. So there's where we build workflows of what we talked about: identifying, assessing, and responding to the risks. So the best processes are simple, repeatable, and adaptable, because risks are always evolving, like I mentioned in the past. And then the tools. So even the best policies and processes won't work if we don't have the right tools. So if we don't have them to support our businesses, so whether risk assessment software, if it's a software, or whether it's a compliance dashboard, or even, I'm going to say, just a structured reporting template tools. So these help us work smarter, right? Not harder. It will save us a lot of time. You have to be aware. You have to know. It kind of draws out a map for you, the steps you want to take, what things you need to follow. It's kind of doing a mind mapping. It's setting out that path, make it making everybody lives easier, especially at the corporate office, at the executive level. They want to define and have these clear policies, right? To to make their organization have a clear vision and their mission. And so when you're building or refining your framework, so ask yourself, are our policies clear? Do our processes make sense? Um, and we have the, I'm going to say, we have the right tools to support them. Do we have them? Um, so if any of those are missing, that's where the gap is. So that's where you have identified, okay, so this gap, how I can fix this. So that gap can be a potential risk in sooner or later. So at the end of the day, um, it, like I was mentioning, it's not about eliminating it completely. So that's impossible, and it's about being prepared, making informed decisions, and instead of and staying ahead of potential issues. And that's how you build a risk management a framework. And we have some case studies about. We're going to examine real world examples of risk management in action. Um, so, and we're going to also see how the lack of planning leads to significant financial losses. So that's not the case. So one of them is the deep water, sorry, the BP Deepwater Horizon. Um, so so the it actually BP Deepwater Horizon was a British petroleum company. So it actually had us about, I'm going to say, it was the most expensive disaster in the history. It was about $65 billion in damages as of 2018. It was a oil spill. So they basically cutted corners on safety issues, and they didn't address them on time. And one of the most expensive disasters that happened. So what really happened in the BP? So BP and its contractors including the Transocean and Halliburton, they were cutting corners, critical corners that led to the Deepwater Horizon disaster, primarily in cost saving decisions, and then safety shortcuts and poor risk management. So the major ones were they were ignoring warning signs from the cement job. So Halliburton was responsible for sealing the well with cement, but BP chose a cheaper and then unstable cement formula. that failed to hold. The red flags were raised multiple times during the testing, but BP ignored it anyways, and proceeded to continue to complete the project. And then they skipped a key safety. The second was the key safety test. So they were basically trying to save up some time. There was a pressure test called cement bond log that could have confirmed if the cement was holding, or whether if it's okay formula. But BP decided not to conduct this test. So they tried to save roughly about 128,000, but as a result, they risked the entire operation. And then the third thing was rushing to finish the job. The project was actually behind the schedule by I'm going to say by over a month, about 43 days, and it was costing BP millions in delays. So to speed up the things, they removed the drilling mud too early, which was crucial for maintaining the pressure. So, and then this led to another factor was the uncontrolled gas surge, so which caused a deadly explosion. So the faulty blowout that basically blew the whole thing up. So there were emails, BP emails had showed that their managers were aware about this safety issue, but they dismissed them to stay on schedule. And then cost cutting and a get it done fast mindset overruled safety features. So what happened as a result? Uh, 11 people had lost their lives and 134 million gallon of oil spill. So as of 2018, like I was mentioning, so $65 billion in cleanup cost and then damages and the lawsuit. That's one of the a biggest lost in the history. And then the second one is the Target. It's a giant retail in the US. So I remember it did enter into the Canadian market at one time, uh, but it didn't do well for a couple of other factors. But mainly what happened in a nutshell, Target actually uh, had a data breach in their system. Um, so hackers had stolen 40 million credit card details. So this is not just the dollar amount. These are just the details we're talking about. So 40 million credit card details they stole, which created a $200 million in dollar amount loss overall. And a simple security, and the reason was a simple security upgrade. They just ignored it. They didn't do it. And that actually led to that hacking. So as a result, this was a great loss for the entire retailer. So I remember in 2013 there were talks, and then sooner or later they just exited Canadian market. They couldn't make it. I personally was going. I used to go to Target shop. It was a retailer shop. Um, but I stopped going there after that news came. So imagine how many others would have done that after coming to know about this, because I I lost my trust as a customer. So if I don't have my information safe in their hands, so I feel I shouldn't be doing business in that retail anymore. And then the final is the Toyota. So most of you probably have heard sometimes companies like Ford and Toyota have some recalls due to some security feature or some product quality issue. So one of the recalls Toyota had was for their airbags, which is really critical. So it was about $2.9 million worth of cars that were recalled for the product safety. So they had to recall these vehicles, and for airbags check. So that was another a case for the loss for Toyota. And sorry, it's kind of good. So how do we build a strong risk culture? So leadership must lead by example. So if they don't take the risks seriously, do you think anybody will take that in their company? No, because it comes with who lead by the example. Who's so the leaders have to uh, create that path for others to follow, and if they don't, nobody will follow that. So think about it: risk evolve, uh, threats emerge, and then regulations change. So um, if we are not actively communicating these updates um, across the organization, we are going to leave ourselves exposed. So how do we do this effectively? If somebody asks this question, so first thing is the transparency. That's the main key. Risk updates should not be buried in the long reports, that nobody reads. That instead of doing that, they should be integrated into everyday workflows, where through concise leadership, briefings, team huddles, or even short, engaging dashboards. Um, and then the second thing is making risk communication two ways. It's not just about leadership pushing updates down the throat. They are it's about creating a culture where employees feel comfortable, right? And they feel comfortable in flagging those risks from the ground up. So this way, we are not just reacting to problems; we are proactively identifying them. So when risk updates become a natural part of your daily business conversation, then we move from just managing risk to truly owning it as an organization. Uh, so employees need. The other thing is, like I was mentioning in one of the slides about the employees training. So employees need to be trained to spot those risks early. So one careless mistake, like I mentioned in past, can cost millions to the company. So it and keep evolving. What worked yesterday might not work tomorrow. So we should keep evolving, and that's makes the a strong risk culture that basically integrates the risk management into our daily operations. And the final is so the final thoughts is I'm going to say is next time you hear about a company facing a risk, so ask or facing a crisis, so you ask yourself, was it a bad luck or was it a poor risk management? So you'll know the answer, that it's usually the later. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hussein. It was amazing. You really
Thank you.
made us get attention to the details and to be aware of risks around us.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you personally, I felt like anytime and everywhere there is a risk.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Yeah,
Thank you.
for this great representation.
Thank you.
Uh, yeah. Do you have any questions? Yeah, Nadej.
Yes, I have actually two comments. Thank you, Hussein. That was a great presentation. Really, really clear. That was so much insight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And it just made me think about, especially 2 points that you've said, like when you were talking about training and things like that. I think that a big reason for doing risk management, it's just this awareness.
Yes.
Basically, when you begin to talk about risks, you make them explicit, and that's really the first step to the best first mitigation step, that people can know, they just know about them,
Yeah.
and so I think that was that was, to me, that was really a very important point. And recalling my own experience as at one point a risk and issue manager for a program, I think in the framework, your framework with policies, processes, tools, I think I would add people in there.
Yeah.
Because you can have the best policies, the best processes, the right tools for it. But if the people just, do not engage, and I know that, as a risk and issue manager, I try to put that in place. And in consultation with the main people involved in risk management, so they
Yeah.
agreed, and we decided that was the right thing to do, the right tool, and things like that. But then actually also they agreed with everything. No, they were not managing the risks, basically, if I can put it in
Yes.
short. And that's why I had really to reintegrate that people part,
Mm.
that also the tools, would send notification and tell them, to update and to think about this action they said they would take, and things like that. But basically, because it was a system telling them, they kind of didn't care about it.
Yeah.
And so I remember that, and I said, oh, I think you need people also in that.
Yes. You definitely need them. Definitely.
Yeah, and thank you for the examples, Hussein. Yes,
No worries.
they were amazing, especially the Deep Horizon. It's a
Yes.
film, and yeah, I watched it 100 times, but I
Yeah.
never think
It was,
about it like a project and risk.
yes, it
It's
was,
very interesting. Yeah, thank you so much.
yeah, you
And
were welcome.
just I have one comment. As risk, it's not necessary to be always like negative. Sometimes could be an opportunity.
Yes,
Like
definitely.
when you talk about COVID, some companies COVID was a great opportunity for them.
Yes,
Yeah,
definitely. And I know at that time, my company was moving swiftly from working on site. Half of our facility was empty, and all of them, we had to uh, order hundreds and thousands of computers for our employees to take to their home. So it's not a small replacing or assigning one PC or a laptop to one person is different versus you have all at once this chaos is happening. Then it's a big task. So I totally agree with you. It should not be always negative. It's
yeah,
more like a constructive to better prepare you for the future, I think. I truly
Thank you.
appreciate joining this. I know your time is very important. Just a little thing I felt to share with you all. So it's to make more aware decisions in the future. So you have to start from basics. So I truly appreciate you give me some time to hear me out. Um, and I wish you all the best.